And welcome back to Visions. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Kurt Esser and Irving Solwick from the Justice Project. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, what is the Darebin Forum and how did it come to be planned?
The Darebin Forum is going to be held on the 4th of September at a public hall in Preston on the corner of High Street and Gower Street. It'll start at 7 o'clock, and the idea is that various community organisations have decided to join together and ask the politicians who are contesting that seat, the seat of Batman as it happens, to come along and give us a blast on human rights. The question that we will be asking each of the candidates standing for the seat of Batman is, well, what are you going to do in the forthcoming Parliament to protect human rights? We think, and all the other sponsors of the forum think, it's a pretty fair question. No one's putting a gun to anyone's head to stand for political office in Darebin or anywhere else, but humans have an interest in human rights, and the humans at Darebin have a great interest in human rights. The organisers are a list which I'd like to mention if I could, Mirella.
Absolutely.
The community organisations who have formed this organising committee are the Darebin Workers' Rights and Social Action Campaign, Preston Reservoir Progress Association, the Melbourne Unitarian Peace Church, the Darebin Ethnic Community Council, Darebin Legal Centre, Friends of the Earth, Union Solidarity, the Humanist Society of Victoria, and our little group, the Justice Project. Now, all these community organisations are united in the idea that we would like to hear from candidates and see where they stand about the protection of human rights. So one of the leading organisers is a guy called Gary Harper, and Gary has taken it upon himself to do the bookings, and the invitations are out. So we're hopeful that all candidates, that's the sitting members and all those people who wish to depose him in the election, will be there. So we're expecting that Mr. Ferguson will be there. He's the sitting member. We've sent invitations out to them. We're still waiting for the results of those. We've had a lot of community feedback about whether the forum's a good idea, and as you can see, there are a lot of people who are involved at a community level who also want to make sure this forum is a great success. The idea is we're going to have local press interested in the forum, and we're going to report people's results, and we're hoping that this kind of community-based forum is something that's going to be replicated in other federal seats.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because in recent years, with technology such as television, which is a very positive technology, politicians have been able to manage their campaigns without actually having much human contact. So I'm old enough to remember going to meetings where politicians actually talked to their constituents, and constituents had a chance to ask questions or to boo or to clap or do what they wanted. These days it's so controlled with the set piece of an election speech and then advertising, and there's a distance between people and their politicians. Now this is an example where people and politicians can come together and actually argue about something.
Why do you think it has become so distant? They've become so distant?
I think it's because the politicians want to control the campaign, and particularly their spin doctors want to control it. They can control it because technology allows them to, and they don't want things to look messy or to. They want everything to be, as I say, controlled, and I think that takes away from a real sense of people owning the campaign, of participating in it, of really being close to their politicians and asking them what they really think about things, which I think only strengthens the democratic process, even though politicians don't seem to think so.
And how do you think, I was going to say, how do you think that this forum will impact on the election?
Well, we're hoping that the main message that will be carried forth into Canberra is that every person who's elected as a result of this general election will be sensitised to the notion that there are serious people in his or her electorate who feel passionately about the protection of human rights and who are prepared to ask questions later. Well, what have you done to protect our human rights? So we don't expect that the issue of human rights is going to be a kind of tipping point, but we do expect that using this method and using the index and the questionnaire, that we're going to sensitise people in the community about the need for the protection of human rights. We're going to tell them a little bit about why we think it might be appropriate to have greater safeguards. I mean, one of the questions that Irving is asking is, are you generally in favour or not in favour of a federal Charter of Human Rights which mirrors either the charter that we have in Victoria or the Human Rights Act that they have in the ACT? So we think that's a pretty fair question. Federal human rights or federal charter has been on and off a political agenda for a long time, so we think that's a pretty fair question. And the point is not really to create a crisis in any particular seat, but really just to sensitise both the community and politicians about the need for the protection of human rights.
Right. And what do you sort of think their response will be? Will they be able to come and be
I'm confident
helpful?
that any politician who puts his hat in the ring and says, I want to be elected by humans, will be sensitised to the notion that there are a lot of people out there who are humans who are in favour of the protection of human rights.
But we certainly hope that lots of people will come, that they'll realise that this sort of staying at home and looking at an election through your television screen is not good enough. And that they really, people, I think, a lot of people will feel a sense of relief that they can actually go and be part of the campaign rather than be isolated from it.
It may lead, for example, Marilla, to other community groups wanting to question their politicians about global warming mitigation or their attitude to the free trade policy or interest rates or whatever. But we think that this is an opportunity for the people in charge of the government to assert themselves.
Beautiful. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been wonderful having you here.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, you've been watching Visions. I hope you enjoyed the program. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guests were Kurt Esser and Irving Solwick from the Justice Project. See you again soon.